Imagine living your entire life not knowing that you had 22q. That is exactly what happened to Robin. Robin was blessed with a beautiful baby girl named McKenna, and it wasn't until McKenna was diagnosed with 22q deletion syndrome that her entire family was then tested. Her husband and her other daughter came back negative, but Robin's test came back positive. She and her daughter McKenna were both diagnosed with 22q, and this is their story. Welcome to the 22q podcast. My name is Becky White, and today I am so happy to have Robin on with us. We connected through Instagram, and she said, you know what? I have a really unique story. Not only do I have a child with 22q, but during her diagnosis, I found out that I had 22q. So I can't wait for you, Robin, to share your story with us today. And thank you so much for being on with us. Please introduce yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about your family.
Okay, so my name is Robin. I am 37 years old. We live in Cincinnati, Ohio, born and raised here. I like to travel with my family. I love to visit new places, and I do like art. And believe it or not, I love science.
Good. And do you do art on the side? Do you paint? Do you draw? Do you crochet? What do you do?
Well, art, I like to paint or draw, but I haven't done that in years because my kids keep me busy. So, but it's funny because my oldest daughter loves to draw and paint, and I kind of live vicariously through her, and she completely gets that from me.
Thank you for sharing all of that. Please tell us a little bit about your family.
My husband and I, Michael, we've been married for 11 years. We have our oldest daughter, Madison, who is 9, who's healthy, and McKenna, who is, she'll be 6 in April, who is our 22q kid.
And tell me about that journey. How did McKenna's journey start when you first got pregnant? It was your second child. What was that like?
Actually, McKenna's my third pregnancy. I had a miscarriage before in the middle of Madison and McKenna. And
So sorry.
it all makes sense now. We always wondered why before, but now it makes sense as to why we had a miscarriage. And it was heartbreaking, but I mean, it happened so fast. So we didn't have a chance to even comprehend what was going on. I found out I was pregnant, and then within a day I was miscarrying. So I didn't even have a chance to comprehend that I was pregnant. And so get attacked.
But it's still hard. And I'm so sorry to hear that.
Oh, thank you. About a month later, I ended up getting pregnant with McKenna, and about a month later, I ended up getting pregnant with McKenna, and we had a pretty smooth pregnancy. I had carried her to 9 months to term. I had a C-section, scheduled C-section. I remember being on bed rest with my first and having preeclampsia, and I was thinking, because I was still working as a nurse on the floor, and I was thinking, when is my doctor going to put me on bed rest, because I'm so exhausted. And I was like, always passing my tests and my exams, and I was like, oh man, I have to go to work tomorrow.
Right?
So I ended up working all the way through my pregnancy and having McKenna scheduled as planned. We scheduled it on April 10th, which is funny because we didn't plan this. Madison's birthday is October 10th. So they were born the same time, the same day of the month, and which worked out good because it's good to remember.
Yep.
But it was like I said, it was smooth pregnancy. I had a scheduled C-section that went great. She passed all her exams. She ate and was eating, and then she never turned it loose. And a few hours after birth, she started to shake. And we questioned it, like, what's going on? And the nurses were all like, oh, well, that's normal. That's just, that autoimmune system's working, kicking in after birth. So I still was like, didn't question it any farther, but then she ended up having a seizure because of low calcium, and that's why she was shaking, but they wouldn't have known that, and I don't blame them for that, on not knowing. So, but that was part of why the genetics team, when we got over to the children's hospital, why they went ahead and tested for DeGeorge syndrome. Her calcium depleted. It
Wow.
Yeah, it was like 10 when we got over there. Then with the heart anomaly and there was there was something else that they her features, her small features, her nose, her ears, her mouth, um, her the way her eyes was shaped. That's why they went ahead and tested, and then they when her test came back positive for George, that's when they tested the rest of the family. My oldest daughter does not have it. My husband has no issues. And then we were fighting insurance. When insurance It took about 3 to 4 months before they finally agreed to test me. And the hospital wrote off my husband and my daughter's testing. But insurance was like, no, there's nothing warranting the mother's testing. The outcome wouldn't matter on McKenna's, and the 22q clinic was worth their magic, and they finally approved testing. We waited and waited so long that the geneticist on the team came to us and was like, look, worst case scenario, you don't have it. You do not have 22q. You have no association with 22q to even worry about it. When the test results came back, the genetics counselor at Children's we were actually inpatient in the room, and she lied to me and she said, well, the test results are in. I haven't looked at them yet. I wanted to go over them with you together. But little did I know, afterwards, she told me that we're friends on Facebook, and she studied my pictures and my facial features, my overall, like, or what I've shared on Facebook. And she threw the papers down on the floor, then shut everything off and was like, am I in her results? Am I in hers? Or am I in McKenna's? So she was questioning herself too. And
Wow.
yeah, then she came to the room and she's like, before I tell you these results, do you want to call anybody?
Were you
And
alone?
I was alone. I was like, no, just tell me. And she's like, what do you think I'm going to tell you? I said, I have no idea what you're going to say. So she's like, well, yours came back positive. And I was like, oh my God, really? And she's like, yeah, really. And I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. The answers were when I was younger. And she's like, well, what do you mean? Go into detail with that. When I was younger, I had a nasally voice. And I was in speech therapy for years. And finally, the speech therapist told my mom, I don't need speech therapy anymore. She couldn't help me. I needed more structural intervention. So I remember getting really ill one year when I was 14 with strep throat. And we were in and out of the hospital. And that's when someone approached my mom and said, we can help your daughter with her voice. At first, my mom didn't want to do anything. And I was like, no, I'm not going into high school with a nasally voice. Help me. And that's why I was like one of the oldest patients to get the VPI surgery. But even then, nothing clicked to warrant a genetics testing, because that was literally the only thing wrong.
Right.
And they ruled that out as me being premature at birth. Well, I only weighed 4 pounds, and I was born 2 months early. My
Okay.
mom was older when she gave birth to me. So then that's said,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, your mother's older. She's in her 40s. That's
Got you.
why. And
Yeah.
so they didn't question it. So literally that's what that answer was to that. And then so immediately I called my mom when the test results came in. I didn't even think about calling my husband. I wanted to
Right.
call my mom. But then after I called my husband, he was like, oh, really? So what does that mean? And I was like, I started thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know. What does that mean? And then it clicked. I'm like, well, that means that everything that's happened to McKenna is my fault. So then I went in a deep, dark depression. after that. And it took me a while to get over it. But then our genetics team hooked us up with a bunch of really good people to
Mhm.
be friends with who had kind of had the similar stories. And it's just good to have a community where
Mhm.
you have good people.
Mhm.
You all have gone through this stuff
Yeah.
in one way or another.
Yep. That must have been so difficult to hear and then have that guilt and carrying that guilt as a mom too. I can't imagine how heavy that must have been for you.
I don't blame myself that much anymore. I take 15 minutes out of my day to cry about it in the shower.
Mhm.
um, Not like before where it was like 2 hours or like all day. I was obsessed with it. And the one thing that I wish I didn't do was Google it at the beginning. Even though like they all said don't do it, but you're gonna do it because they put the worst case scenarios out there. I don't know. It's hard at the beginning,
Mhm.
for sure. But we're fighters, we're strong, and that's it.
What really helped you find that peace and find the acceptance with the diagnosis for yourself and for your daughter?
Well, I just woke up one day and I was like, look, we can't be in this path anymore. So I just had to accept it. I had to move on because if I didn't, no one would be able to take care of McKenna the way I could. So that's what really drove me to like get over that hump. And well, Zoloft helped too during that point. So
Yep.
I'm not
Whatever
on
works.
Zoloft anymore, but that really helps me with that during that time. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, whatever works.
yeah.
Whatever you need to help you get through it, whether it's moving your body, talking to someone, whether it is medication from your doctor, whatever you need to do. And I think it's good that you found what you needed to do. And it's really hard to change your mindset when you are going through something like that and feeling that grief and living with that grief. And I do want to ask you though, on the side of grief, once you've found that middle place of joy and grief, do you also feel in some ways that you and your daughter are have a superpower that the other part of your family doesn't have? Do you feel like you're part of a club or a group that other people will never understand, but at least you as her mom can enjoy and see the world through her eyes and see her struggles and also tell her, I understand. Do you have
But
any of that?
it's hard because I really don't understand. And I feel like I have a little bit of survivor's guilt and I'm an imposter because I don't know her struggles. I had a pretty good childhood and I never had the issues that McKenna's facing, but I'm facing it with her. So that's
Mhm.
the the point. And
Mhm.
it this could have torn our family apart, but it just brought us stronger together. We are all learning together and we're going through this journey together. And that's important.
Mhm. It is. I'm
Yeah.
so glad to hear that you guys are going through it together. A lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and how is McKenna doing? Let's go back to when she was a newborn. You got the diagnosis of her 22q diagnosis. What was next for her? What was a major things that had to be taken care of in that first year of life?
Oh man. So she needed heart surgery for sure. So she had the her first open heart surgery, 7 days old, and then something happened with the conduit that they placed. It malfunctioned, so then she needed another heart surgery to replace
No.
the conduit. So that happened in May. And then later on, we were inpatient for 34 days. She went home with the NG tube. She needed to learn how to feed again. We didn't go home with oxygen at first. About 18 months of age is when she started with the oxygen. It turned out that her heart is overlapping her airway, so she has a blockage in her airway. So she needs bronchoscopies to clean out her lungs occasionally, and that's why she's prone to pneumonia also.
For those of us who don't know, what is a say it again, bronchoscopy?
Bronchoscopy. So that is a little tube that they use to go through the airway. It's not a major procedure. She is under anesthesia, but they just take a light and a tube, and then they take a device, they wash out her lungs to clear out all the mucus that's been built up. That's what they basically do.
Okay. So she's getting all of that. At 18 months, she went on oxygen.
Yes. And then she had, so she's had 2 heart surgeries already. When she was about a year old, because we celebrated her birthday when she was her first birthday in the hospital. We were inpatient for 2 months. She had G2 placements, and then she had another bronchoscopy where they cleaned out they washed out her lungs. And then she also had a aortopexy, which she has not only does she have a scar on her chest, she has a scar on her back, where they went through to kind of push over her aorta to off her airway to make room for her to be able to breathe a little bit better. But that actually did not work. It was successful, but before the surgery, she was on like an 1/8 of a liter, and she went home on 1 liter. Now it's like anywhere between 1 to 2 liters that she's on throughout the day and night. So far, she's had 2 open heart surgeries, the G2 placement, another heart surgery. She was just constantly scoped to wash out her lungs throughout the first year of her life. And then we were just always, it seemed like it was the end of the month. We were always inpatient that first year for at least 10 to 14 days.
Did they figure out her calcium?
Oh, yes. So the calcium, what she was on, they put her on a vitamin, and that seemed to regulate her calcium, and she never had a seizure since birth. That was just the one-time thing. She's still on a multivitamin today. She's on the Flintstones, which helps regulate that.
So that first year of life was hard. Did you continue working, or did you have to step back from work in order to take care of her?
The first year of life, me and my husband did have to continue to work. So we were taking care of the sick child, and we were taking care of our oldest daughter, making sure she went to school. My husband is a 9 to 5. He works at the bank. This was before COVID, so we didn't have remote access. We didn't have our office ability to work at home, so we had to go into the office. I worked weekends. I remember doing double shifts on weekends to make ends meet. And the first year of life, she didn't have pulmonary services, so then she didn't qualify for skilled nursing services at home. But then when pulmonary came on board and was like, no, she needs more care, we need to make sure her airways good when she gets home. And so they provided us with a bunch of devices and stuff to help her at home. They wrote she needs skilled nursing services. That's when I was able to work from home and be her nurse at home too. So
good.
And I still do that till this day. I'm her nurse at home. So that's the blessing in all of this, is I'm able to work from home and be her nurse at home. So
yeah. After that first year of life and after all of that, what was the next big thing for her?
So the next big thing was, I remember from 1 to 2, was just learning to eat. She had a lot of therapy. Then She ended up finally walking at age 2. I'm trying to think. It all just is, it kind of blends together at this point.
Yeah. Right.
um so like I mean, she has classes. One of her main issues is she has poor eyesight, and they're trying to figure out whether or not she needs eye surgery in the next couple of years. So that's a major thing. So last year she ended up having another heart surgery, and that was because she was supposed to have a cath. They were supposed to open up her arteries in the cath lab. And during that time, I remember speaking to our main primary cardiologist, and I was like, this isn't going to end well. She's not going to go in. It's not going to be a smooth cath. It's just not. It's been too long since she's had any like surgery on her heart. You can't tell me and convince me otherwise that this is going to end with open heart surgery. We kept following up, and her cardiologist laughed at me, and he was like, you need to quit watching medical shows. I said, who are you talking to?
Whoa.
I was like, who are you talking to? You don't talk to me like that. I'm telling you right now, I will bet this. She's going to need an open heart surgery. This isn't going to end well. That's all I'm saying. Well, sure enough, the cath doctor came out to us and was like, so I can't get the stent placed. I can't get the artery to balloon up, and I can't get that she's actively bleeding. They cut her artery as they were trying to place the stent. So they tried 3 different times to place this, and it was not successful. Doctor then came out and told us she needs to go up to the ICU and be monitored overnight. We'll see if this bleed stops, but if it doesn't stop, we may need surgery. So they told us to go home, get a good night's rest. First thing in the morning, they called me and said, you need to come back. She needs open heart surgery. So I remember the cardiologist coming in and apologized to us and said, you were right. You were right. And we stayed a week, if not longer, during that stay. But it went from just a normal cath lab procedure, no admission. It wasn't supposed to be an admission, but it was. And it ended up being like a 7-day admission.
I'm glad she's okay. That's really scary.
But it's funny, the cardiologist, we laugh about it now, but he was like, mom was right, you were right. And I was like, yeah, don't mess with me when it comes to my kid. I
Right.
know, you just know, you have it.
You know, I can't tell you how many parents I've had on this podcast, and they say the same thing, where they've told the doctor, for example, if you put that in their mouth, they're going to throw up. And the medical professional is like, no, all kids can eat this. And parents know their kids really, really well. And
Yeah.
I'm glad she's okay. That must have been, you must not have slept at all that night when they told you to go home.
No.
So how is she doing now? What are some physical medical challenges she's facing now?
So right now, her being almost 6, she'll be 6 in April. The challenges are, what we're dealing with is school, the whole school aspect of life with the 22q diagnosis. She has an IEP. She's in mainstream class kindergarten right now. The challenge is what's going to happen next year when she goes to first grade. And they're trying to figure out placement for her. We're worried about her. Is she going to make it for 8 hours a day versus just half day right now? And it's a struggle, because I have to understand she's not like me. When I was younger, I could go to school. I could go to regular classes. I could learn. She needs a little extra help, and I have to get over that hump of realizing she probably does need that special classroom. And I'm having a hard time accepting that right now
Why are you having a hard time with it?
because I feel like if she went to that classroom, she wouldn't push herself to learn. She would just fall back. And I'm afraid that that might happen.
Mm-hmm.
She likes to take the easy road on things and she won't challenge herself. She's
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, okay, we're doing this today. Okay, whether it's accepting or not, she doesn't care. But she might honestly need that. She might need that room. She might need that
Ease into it. And
ease into it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot for them. We were worried about the same thing with my. So with school, it is a big choice. And I think from my journey, which has just started in school, I guess my piece of advice would be is make the best choice you think at the time, evaluate it in 6 months, meet with the team at an IEP meeting, see how it's going, and make adjustments along the way. And that's really all you can do.
Yeah. The thing that is really hard for me to accept if she were to go to the special needs classroom. Right now, she's in the same school as my oldest. She would have to go to a different school. And with having her sibling in the same school, just puts another set of eyes and ears out. And she won't have that. But then at the same time, that might hold Madison back if she were to continue on to first grade. If something doesn't go well with McKenna, Madison might get backlash on that. So it's a lot to think about, for sure. It's not easy. I also need to tell myself too, I mean, it's not a permanent decision. It's not, it can be reevaluated in
Yep.
6 months, like you said. So
Yeah, they'll tell you too. Your daughter will let you know as well. So, but yeah, just make the best choice you think is right for your family and for her and go from there. And it's really hard though. I hear you. It's really hard.
we just need to go into this meeting in April, with her evaluation with open minds and just listen to what they have to say. We're not with her when she's in school, so we don't know her behaviors and what she's actually doing inside the classroom. So maybe she does need the special education classroom. Her teacher would know. She has a one-on-one nurse during the day at school, but she doesn't really tell us that part. She just tells us like her medical part. And it's hard to accept. Like you said, we want to make the right choice. And it's just hard to accept. And honestly, though, I am shocked that she was able to go into a mainstream classroom for kindergarten anyway. We were trying to get her to go back and repeat kindergarten for this year or for next year, but they don't want to do that. They want to move her on to first grade. But I don't know if she's even ready for that, but they won't listen to us with that. So, and then that would just help her to repeat, because I don't know how much she's soaked in with learning for kindergarten, but I mean, since this was her first time being in school in a classroom with education, so
Right.
there's that too.
Have you reached out to the 22Q Family Foundation and their education
I have not.
advocates?
No.
So they have educational advocates that will go to IEP meetings with you virtually, and they can help advocate for you for the things that she'll need, like hands-on learning, maybe getting an aide or a one-to-one educationally to help her, or to be able to pull her out and like let her have a rest time and read a book quietly. Or so I can get you all that. But schooling is huge, and it is such a big decision that we have to face as parents, and you just have to make a choice that's best for them at that time and see how it goes. But it's a big choice, especially with your other daughter being in the school.
It is. it's just a lot that we have to think about it and decide. But I think we're going to go more toward the special needs classroom anyway, just to see what it's how she does. I'm just worried about the nonverbal kids and the kids that have violence,
Yeah.
that she might pick up on that. And because she picks up on so
Yeah.
much.
Learned behavior. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. It is. It's all of those things. It's a lot. It's a big choice, and you'll make the right one when the time comes, and you can always reevaluate
Right.
if it's not working. And that's the beauty of the IEP. If you request an IEP meeting, they by law have to do the IEP meeting with you. So yeah, that's gold. Yeah. But my dear, it sounds like the last 6 years have been a lot of medical, a lot of decisions, and a lot of grieving and joy. What has been the biggest struggle for you navigating not only your own 22Q, but your daughter's 22Q?
It's funny because with all the life, the struggle with the whole life thing, and phases, we've kind of conquered the medical part for right now. And that was hard during that. I feel like that was hard during that time and that in that moment. But looking back, it wasn't all that challenging. At that time it was, but I feel like now in this phase with education and school is worse than ever than facing the medical part. And I guess because I have a medical background, I kind of was able to navigate my way through that with McKenna and talk my family into like what to expect when it came to medical diagnoses and some signs and symptoms and things like that, because I had that background. I don't really have a clue when it comes to education on this, and this is probably the biggest challenge that we're facing right now when it comes to McKenna's education and just trying to learn and educate our own selves. I mean, she's smart, she can learn, she just needs someone to be able to push her and to guide her through this. She won't do it unless she's pushed. And
Right.
I wish that she'll get the best education, make sure she has good placement, and make sure she has everything that she needs at school.
Yep. And it can be a fight. It can be
Yeah.
a fight, and it can take long hours, but you do it. And somehow you get through it. This whole journey of 22Q for me on my end, and a couple other moms I talked to, is it's like that first couple of years is all medical. Then the next couple of years is school, trying to figure out this world that you're just introduced to, the special needs world of education. Then it becomes social, emotional, finding friends, finding community, finding groups and clubs for them to be a part of. And then it goes into the mental side and anxiety and then it's always something. So you're doing a great job, and you got through the medical for the most part. And now you're at this new education mountain that you now have to climb, and you're building your team. You're building your climbing team to help you get up this mountain, and just take it one day at a time is my only advice. You're doing a great job, and you can always reevaluate.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And by no means do I have all the answers at all. It's just know you're not alone, and that there are resources for you and for your daughter out there. Now that you have 22Q and your daughter, what are some struggles that you think maybe family and friends don't fully understand?
I always get, especially when McKenna has surgeries, I always get the question, well, is she fixed now? Or I don't think they mean to say it that way, but she's never going to be fixed. This is a lifelong struggle.
What do you wish they would say instead?
Um, just word it differently. Like, don't say, is she fixed now? She's just, did she overcome this situation that she's in? Like, what's the outcome of this struggle that she's dealing with now? Like,
Right.
something other than, oh, is she fixed now? Like, I know that they don't mean it that way, but it's hard to explain, and then we get kind of argumentative, and I can't deal with that. And then
Mhm.
for me, I get, well, um you passed it down to her, so you're the carrier. No, I'm not the carrier. I have it too. With genetics, you don't, it's not a carrier, it's you have it or you don't have it.
Right. Yeah.
So
Understanding that.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that's hard.
people always have something to say, like, and they think that they can offer their advice or their 2 cents, and when it's not warranted or it's not needed. And I think that's when they think that they're being smart when they say things, but don't say it. Don't, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
Exactly. And we learned that in kindergarten,
Yeah.
right? It's very
Right.
simple. Just be there for someone, give them a hug, feed them, give them caffeine, and then say, "I'm here for you if you want to talk."
Yeah.
I hear you. It can be really hard and really stressful when people in your life just don't fully understand. But yeah. And what has McKenna taught you about yourself?
That you can push through no matter what the challenge is at the time. McKenna's the strongest person I know, and it's just taught me some inner strength that I didn't know I had. And
Yeah, very well said.
yeah,
And for individuals maybe listening to this podcast for the first time and hearing your story, what advice can you offer them living with 22q yourself and being a mom of a 22q kiddo? What advice would you tell those parents or caregivers or individuals?
don't give up hope. There's always someone else out there that either knows um, the struggle that you've gone through in one way or another. You talk to them. Don't hold it all in. Just do your research. Don't give up hope. Um, it's a dark path, but learn to overcome it and don't let it define you.
Mm-hmm. No, don't let it define you. I like that. And when you got your diagnosis, if you could go back in time to that day in McKenna's hospital room, and the geneticist walked in and gave you the news that you had 22q, if you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself in that moment?
It'll be okay. Don't blame yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Do you feel that having this diagnosis, it's made you stronger?
yes. And I'm glad that I didn't know I had it when I was younger, because I feel like if I knew when I was younger, then I wouldn't challenge myself, that I wouldn't be the person who I am today. It's funny because things work out. They do. And it just, I don't know. I don't struggle with it anymore as I did before when I got the news that I had it. It's just it's an eye opener for sure. And I just want, just because, even though my story isn't full of medical surgeries, I that's the beauty of it, is because I don't have that. It's unique. 22q, it helps so much. We're a big community with a lot of love, and we just want to help and tell our stories and reach out and help people. So,
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah.
thank you. But Robin, thank you for being on today and sharing your story. I wish you the best of luck with your daughter and your family. And I want to thank you for sharing your journey with us today. And I just think it's a beautiful story. And I wish you nothing but the best.
Oh, thank you so much.
Robin, thank you so much for sharing your 22Q journey and McKenna's with me today. It just goes to show that 22Q isn't just one set diagnosis and can look one certain way. You are living proof of that. You had it for your whole life and never knew. And it makes me wonder how many other individuals out there are walking around not knowing that they have 22Q, but that they are part of this wonderful, amazing community. But thank you again, and keep fighting for your daughter the way you have been. She is so lucky to have you, and I'll be rooting for you during your IEP meetings. Hang in there, never give up, and just keep going. And to our 22Q community, thank you for listening to this podcast, sharing it, and following us on social media. It has been incredible to see the growth of this podcast, and I am so, so grateful for your help and just getting the word out there and raising awareness about 22Q. And for anyone who has questions or would like to be on the podcast, you can reach me at 22qpodcast@gmail.com. And never forget, 22Q family, that you are not alone.